everyone. Thank you for joining today. I'm just waiting for Valerie to jump on and then I'm going to add her to the live. And today, while we wait, Valerie's joining me from Champagne Ayala. So that's the brand we're going to be focusing on today. So super excited to share with you guys about this house. Okay, she's on, so let me add her.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh man, we're the opposite.
I can't hear you too well. Hold on, it might be my volume.
Hold on.
Oh, there. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
That's better.
Yeah. Okay. We're in business.
Yay.
Yay.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday already somehow, I guess.
I know. I don't know how the week's flying by.
Time in general, but hey, we have champagne and we're making gougères and life is good.
Yes.
Can be, right?
Definitely. Not a bad way to spend a Wednesday afternoon.
True.
So I let everyone know that we are going to be talking about Champagne Ayala today. So I'm so excited. And I just wanted to share with you guys, I met Valerie back in December at a Bollinger tasting at Petrosian in West Hollywood. So we got to do a fun champagne and caviar tasting, which was an amazing time. I can't wait till we all get to go out and meet again.
Me too. I miss it so much.
I know. So Champagne Ayala is a sister house to Champagne Bollinger. So that's who we're going to be talking about today. And I actually was able to show you guys so you know the brand we're talking about today.
Beautiful. That's a lot of ink from your printer, Laura.
I know.
A very valuable sign that you have. Hold on. Cool. So yeah, before I get started, I think it's 4 o'clock already here in California, so it's definitely snack time. It's definitely champagne o'clock, as we know, but
Yes.
I decided to whip up a little snack that is kind of traditional in France, but definitely traditional in my home, which is gougère, or French cheese puff. And I've already gone ahead of the steps that are very loud during the process of making the gougères, because it does involve the use of a machine that sounds like a tractor's in the kitchen. So that stuff is done. But just to walk you through really quickly how it's done, because it's so simple to do. And even once you make the dough, you can freeze the dough and then just bake them frozen and, you know, just present them as a hostess, and you look like a domestic goddess or a domestic god. So it's a nice little hosting hack, and moreover, it's just really, really delicious to enjoy with champagne. So
Awesome.
very quickly, what you're going to do is you're going to take a heavy saucepan and you're going to boil a stick of butter. Everything good starts with a stick of butter. And you're going to do about a half cup of whole milk and a half cup of water, a half teaspoon of salt. And you're going to boil that mixture, which seems weird, but stick with it. Then you add some flour, just about a cup of flour. And very important, you take a wooden spoon. It's got to be wood. I don't know why, but just stick with it.
Okay, it has to be a wooden spoon.
Got to be wood. And then you're going to stir the pan as the dough starts to come together. Now, I used to be a pastry chef in another life, so I've always been about like the happier, fluffier pleasure parts of life between champagne and pastry. But oftentimes I was asked, what is your favorite thing to make as a pastry chef? And this recipe is definitely one of them, because it's really a labor of love, much like the art of winemaking. But in the sense that you really have to work for it with this recipe. You have to stir with over the hot flame until you feel like your arms are going to fall off. And then it's ready for the machine. So then you put it in the machine and you whip it with a paddle. You gradually add your eggs and, very important, the Gruyere cheese. And then we're going to put it in a makeshift piping bag. I don't have piping bags, so we got to improvise, adapt, and overcome, and we're doing that with a gallon-sized freezer bag. And we're going to pipe the buttons, throw it in the oven, and chat about champagne. We'll be done. You'll watch me eat them. Voila.
Sounds great. I can't wait to see how they turn out. They sound amazing.
Yeah, hopefully they come out as planned, as they normally do. But before I do that, I want to thank you so much, Laura. This is so awesome. It's great to see you. And thank you for your love of champagne and your interest in Champagne Ayala. I definitely want to make sure that you pour yourself a glass before I start piping.
Okay.
Nothing makes me more sad than an empty wine glass. That's truly tragic. Okay, I'm feeling better now. Thank you.
Of course.
So cheers.
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 Cheers, everyone.
Okay, now I will begin. So, Champagne Ayala has been I'm back. Champagne Ayala has been one of the most fabulous discoveries for me in my career in the wine world. I've been in the wine business for about 14 years. And while I was very familiar with Champagne Brut Nature, as it was, and still is, quite honestly, my favorite champagne. I mean, I love Ayala too. Every wine has its moment and its time. But in general, I really, really loved Brut Nature. And discovering Ayala has been an absolute beautiful treat. It was a very historical house established since 1860.
Mm-hmm.
It was established by Edmond Ayala. And this name, off the start, does not necessarily sound very French. A lot of people think it sounds kind of Latin. And you were correct in thinking that, because Edmond Ayala's ancestors were coming from the Basque region of Spain, about 20-30 kilometers south of Bilbao, to be precise.
Yep.
And so he was born and raised in Paris. He went to the Champagne region. He was rubbing elbows with the right people. He started working with a gentleman who had a champagne house and vines. He wed his daughter, so he married the daughter and received a dowry. And in the dowry, he received a maison and a vineyard.
Wow.
Those were
nice.
other times. Yeah. Those were other times. But I like to think it was for love, you know, marriage, but I digress. Anyhow, so within the dowry, he received these assets, and he's created then his family house, Champagne Ayala. And it was really thanks to his brother, who was actually studying at university in the UK during this time, during the late 1800s,
Mm-hmm.
who had brought back the family champagne with him to the UK. And this style of wine, which at the time was considered quite dry, was gaining a lot of positive attention. Because during the late 1800s, most houses on average would add a dosage of sugar that was around 66 grams on average, or it was up to 200 or 300 for the Russian or US markets, which is quite a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I think there's about 92 grams of sugar in a liter of Coca-Cola. So it was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So during that time, when the average was 66 grams per liter, Champagne Ayala was at a mere 22. So it was considered this kind of revolutionary, dry, fresh style. And beautifully, the house has preserved a lot of the historical advertisements. And you've seen some of them, Laura. They're beautiful, but you see how it's being advertised as the dry champagne. So it was thanks to the success that the house really started to do very well financially and distribution-wise. But that kind of came to a screeching halt in 1911. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with your history in Champagne, but in 1911 there were the Great Riots. And the riots occurred because there was greater standardization about the delimitation of the Champagne region, but also really requiring that the origin of the grapes had to be from that region and not coming from, during that time people were pulling grapes from the Languedoc, from Noir, from as far as Algeria, and calling it Champagne. So the true Champenois were obviously not having it. And so we have to create these regulations, which caused a bit of a stir. Now, during those riots, unfortunately, the Maison of Ayala was on the path of destruction. And the house was almost completely destroyed. It was very violent, very, very sad. However, the family was okay. And the family was actually quite smart. Someone at the team, or the family, had the wit to take insurance. And that insurance also happened to cover riots.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so, from riots of 1911 and being completely destroyed at the Maison and facility, by 1913, they were back up in action. They were back making the beautiful champagnes, and they had a gorgeous redecorated Maison in this Art Deco style, which to this day is really stunning and quite unique in the Champagne region.
Yeah, it looks beautiful from the photos. I can only imagine in person.
You have to go. Definitely.
I know, I definitely do. Once we can
when
start traveling again.
Yeah, you absolutely must. I mean, Champagne is just like a 40-minute train ride from Paris. In fact, there's lots of people who work in Champagne, but live in Paris. So it's, I mean,
an easy commute,
from the
right?
west side to downtown LA takes
yes.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
So it was, okay, we've got our gougère and our makeshift pastry bag. So this is a very important step for perfectionists. The way that you pipe will determine the ultimate shape of your gougère. And, you know, theoretically, if you don't want to do the piping bag, you can just take a tablespoon and plop them down and it'll look very rustic. That's fine. But the way that I was trained was this way by this like old French chef. And Alon, I remember you and I must honor you. So we'll get to piping in just a second. So you're sipping the Brut Majeur?
Yes. So everyone, this is the first one I am drinking. So should we go into, we've kind of gone over the history. Should we go over your house style or the house style?
Absolutely. So Brut Majeur is the major wine of the house. It's accounting for 80% of what we are producing. It's also the greatest challenge for the winemaker because it is the introduction to the Maison. You know, this is kind of like the hello, nice to meet you from Champagne Ayala. So the style must be consistent, and the style must also be kind of an indication to the DNA of the range. So I hope you're enjoying it. But coming back to the history of the Maison. So when the house was fully rebuilt in 1913, they really started to see a lot of success and evolution. And then the First World War came.
Yes.
And unfortunately, well, fortunately actually, the family was exiled to the UK. And during that time, actually their neighbors and their good friends, the Meunier family, because it's really kind of like a 10-minute walk if you're speed walking from one to the other. But they had kept tabs on the house during the war, and they were managing the vineyards owned by the Ayala family and being good neighbors. And during that time, while they were exiled in the UK, very interestingly, the house was actually used by a lot of German Nazi officers. So they stationed there, and it was said that they consumed 700 bottles of champagne while staying at the Maison. And they left an IOU note to Monsieur Ayala for 700 bottles, but of course, Monsieur Ayala never redeemed this IOU, and it still remains in the family archives today.
Oh, wow. That's such a good story.
They've done a beautiful job preserving the archives of the family and the estate, and it's something that I can speak about, and it's something that you can think and taste, and you have to go see. I mean, everybody, please.
Yes, definitely.
So, once the war was over, and we went into the Roaring 20s. This was really the golden age for Champagne Ayala. During this time, they were one of the top 10 exported champagnes. They were receiving the royal warrant from the Queen of England and the Queen of Spain. And also during this time, along with these historical artifacts, we find old menus from US presidential birthday parties at the Waldorf Astoria. And the menus actually still exist today at the New York City Public Library. And you can see what people were eating and drinking. I guess shrimp cocktail was a big thing then. A lot of crab torts. and they were drinking Champagne Ayala, which was really kind of cool to see. So after the Roaring 20s and this golden age at the Maison, the house went into a little bit of a sleeping beauty phase. And the house was sold by the family to other family-owned wine growers until 2005, when the Brut Majeur family purchased the estate. It made a lot of sense. Their families go way back, and there is so much balance and synergy in the house styles, whereas Brut Majeur is really known for, you know, this big, rich, toasty, steep Pinot Noir style. Ayala is really more on the tune of purity, finesse. Chardonnay is the affinity of the Maison. Stainless steel vinification, but a very pure style. It's quite special. So going into the range, starting with the Brut Majeur. So here we're going to have a composition of 40-40-20. So 40% Chardonnay, always 40% or more Chardonnay in all of our blends, which is actually a pretty high percentage considering that Chardonnay makes up about 29% of the plantings in all of the Champagne region. So we can have 40% Chardonnay, 40% Pinot Noir, and the remainder Pinot Meunier. So systematically, we are also doubling the aging requirements of each wine. So during the secondary fermentation, sorry, I'm piping.
Oh, no, you're fine.
During the secondary fermentation, we're going to age the wine on the lees for a minimum of 36 months, which is double the legal requirement.
Wow.
An additional investment, because if there is any wine region that proves that time is money, it's Champagne. So aged on the lees for 36 months. After disgorgement, the wine will rest because it's a bit of a violent process. So the wine will rest for about 3 to 4 months, and then it'll make its way to California and hopefully to your glass.
Yes,
now,
definitely.
Yes. So now, Brut Majeur is a very people-pleasing style. I think this is a really great example of our chef de cave, our winemaker, Caroline Latrive's, kind of her ethos and really what she looks for, not just in the wines that she creates, but I think also in the wines that she enjoys to drink, which is one looking for a lot of focus, a lot of purity of fruit, and the finish being super clean. Now, texturally, you're obviously going to have this velvety mousse, but the bubbles are so integrated and it's so fine. It's just it's such a gorgeous experience to have with that acidity, kind of the white blossom, white fruit notes, finishing super clean. Almost begs for the next sip. It's actually kind of dangerous for that.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting some like apple in there too. A little bit of honey, I feel.
Yeah, I would agree. So this is a champagne that is a perfect aperitif, which is what we're doing now. But this is also my go-to when pairing with slightly spicy cuisine, because you do have quite a bit of opulent ripeness. Don't get me wrong, it's still a dry champagne. And that balances any kind of exotic spice or hit of chili really beautifully. It's just perfect balance.
So would you say like a Thai spicy dish, or what type of?
Exactly.
Okay.
That is my go-to with like Thai food, Vietnamese food, Indonesian food, Peruvian food. That wine with ceviche is amazing.
That sounds really good.
Really good. So also pretty interesting to mention while I'm piping.
Yeah.
That, you know, Champagne Ayala has this really incredible history. It's really quite beautiful how well it's been documented, and understanding the history of the Maison really puts it into place with the history of the region, the history of the world. And by current day, the Maison is operated by a very small team. We're a team of 20 people handling absolutely everything from the reception of the grapes. My pastry bag gave up. Okay, I got a few good ones in. We're fine. Got to improvise, adapt, and overcome, right?
Yes, definitely. All about improvisation.
Yes. So I was saying that absolutely everything is handled at the Maison, which is also quite special for any champagne house, unless you are truly like one of the bigger estates. Ayala is really petite in that sense, of course, in that it's a team of 20 people handling everything on the property, the historical property, with a team of 20 people that are on average. I believe the average age now, I guess everybody's getting older, but the average age I believe is 35.
But still very young.
Very young,
team.
which is something that is quite special and unique for a champagne house.
Yeah.
With such a rich history, and I think particularly also in the region of Champagne, where you know, it tends to be a bit more traditional.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to crack an egg and dress up the gougère to get ready for their time in the oven, and then I'm less distracted with the gougère.
Okay.
Do you want to hit me with some questions?
Sure. So what's the dosage on the, because I know you said they did the lower sugar from the start. That's the history, you know, of the house. So the sugar in the Brut Majeur, what is that today? Uh-oh, I think I lost you. Can you guys still hear me or see me, or should I restart the live? Okay, let me try to re-add Valerie, everyone. Looks like she disappeared. Can you still, hopefully you can still hear me. Okay, you can still hear me. It looks like, let me try to add her again. Okay, it looks like she's coming back. Okay. Yes.
All right, I'm back.
We're back.
Sorry about that.
No, oh, you never know what's going to happen during a live.
It's
so I
true.
was asking about the dosage. I don't know if you heard me if I cut out.
Yeah, so the dosage on Brut Majeur is 8 grams.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to know, I think, when you're approaching the question about dosage, I don't think it's really correct to just kind of paint this concept or opinion around dosage with a single brush stroke. You know, I mean, the way that I've heard it best described is that, you know, dosage is there to bring amplification to what is already there. So it's almost as if you're sprinkling a little bit of salt on your food.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing so to make a salty dish. That's not the objective. You're doing it to bring out the flavors that are already there. So I know that's kind of like an easy go-to to judge a wine, but I do challenge that.
That's a good way to put it, and a good way to think about it too.
Yeah, you gotta, you know, like I've had champagnes that were probably like 12 grams, and I still really enjoyed them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of my favorite wines are Sauterne, but I also really, really love a good Brut Nature. Okay, so this is as far as I got with the gougères, guys, but you see, they look like...
Oh, so they're pretty small when you pipe them out.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
I like to make them small because it is just one bite.
Yeah, just pop it in your mouth.
Yeah, theoretically you could pipe it as big as you want, and I've made like lobster salad sandwiches with them before, or you can put mushrooms inside or whatever you want. Get crazy. But I like to put a little bit of egg wash and then pop them in. But they look like nothing now. Just wait.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see the final product, final finish.
Hey, Google, set a timer for 13 minutes. Google. So that takes us to our next wine, the Brut Nature. So with the Brut Nature, this is I think one of my favorite wines ever. It is definitely a nod to the historical style of the house, but here we're going to take the same composition of the Brut Majeur. So 40-40-20. However, we're going to age the wine an additional 12 months on the lees. So 48 months aged on the lees. Now, it's important to know, as I'm sure most of you do, that this process of aging on lees is not only required in the region of Champagne by law, 15 months for non-vintage and 3 years for vintage, but it's also really, really important. Now, Champagne as a wine-growing region is one of the most northernmost regions in France. It's extremely cold there, and the weather is, pardon my French, shitty. It's raining pretty much every month out of the year, and so the health of the grapes is really going to change year per year, although thanks to global warming, sort of, we're now finding warmer vintages and more declaration of vintages. But that being said, usually it's quite cold, it's quite rainy, and what that does is it results in grapes that are higher acidity. So in order to balance that acidity, we really need to have that process during secondary fermentation where the yeast is eating the sugar, it dies, which sounds sad, I like to say that's sleeping. But when it's sleeping, an autolytic process is occurring in the wine. So during this process, you have the emission of lipids and enzymes that give this signature champagne creamy texture, which is kind of a scientific miracle. You know, I mean, when we think of wine, it is a reminder of like, this is just grapes, guys, just grapes. So the fact that we have that creamy texture, it's really in thanks to that process, and very, very important in order to balance all of that acidity. This is particularly true when it comes to the Brut Nature, because here we're going to add a 0 dosage, none, but we really do rely on that additional time on the lees to create more of a creamy, rich texture that will balance the bone dryness and all of that acidity. And really what you get is a wine that is a bit creamy, very dry, but not in a punishing, metallic, tinny way. Like it's not going to put hair on your chest. It's very pleasurable to drink because of all of that autolytic process. And it's a gorgeous wine to enjoy on its own. But because of that process and no dosage, I find that it has a little bit of salinity, a little bit of flintiness, a bit of saltiness, that I find pairs really, really beautifully with anything coming from the ocean. So this, I mean, I know champagne and oysters, that's not a groundbreaking pairing.
I know.
It's for a reason, it works, it's really good.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely getting that salinity for sure. I can definitely see this with the oysters.
Yeah. When you sip this wine, you kind of have to picture yourself by the sea, having some gorgeous oysters with some beautiful bread and French butter. It's just, I mean, pure heaven, pure heaven. Obviously, this pairs really beautifully with like a seafood tower, but I also love it with fish tacos. Why not?
Yeah, I had fish tacos yesterday. I should have had a little bit yesterday, but I could do that again.
Try it. It's really good.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my favorites. And you don't see it a lot because we don't make a lot of it. So if you do see it, grab it. I do believe it's available on wine.com, but If you need to know where it is, just DM me.
Yeah, we can definitely help you guys find this. It's excellent.
Yeah, it's really quite special.
Perfect for even like sitting, like you said, pretending we're by the sea. It's so hot today in Southern California.
It is.
I have one right now.
Sweating. It's 80 degrees here, and the oven is at 425.
Yeah.
Which is right there. So I'm like spitzing. Feels good though. Feels good. Have you tried a lot of Brut Nature, Laura?
I wouldn't say a lot, but I've been trying more and more. And I do like
very
the style.
fashionable right now, I think.
Yes, I agree. It definitely is more fashionable. I feel like, and especially having the no dosage, I think it's a good spring, summer for sure. Champagne, definitely.
Yeah.
Kind of the guilt-free champagne.
Here you go. I mean, champagne is only 90 calories.
I know. So it's like the best thing to drink anyways.
Not that anyone's counting anymore.
I know. I think all bets are off right now.
Yeah. I mean, when you think of how much happiness a glass of champagne brings to you, it's worth whatever calorie count.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think.
No, but I do love, this is a great one. I'm definitely getting some, like, apricot, too, I feel.
Yeah, you know, it's still within, like, the DNA style of Ayala, so you do still have a lot of kind of opulent, riper fruit. I get a lot of kind of green apple, like underripe peach, a bit of flintiness, a bit of saltiness. Bubbles are even more fine. I don't know if we're able to see them, but they're even more fine. It's been aged for 4 years.
Yeah, they're super fine. You probably can't really even, they're so fine.
You know, this typically retails for less than, I want to say less than $60 a bottle, which, you know, for a Brut Nature from a boutique maison, that is also one of the founding members of the Grand Marque du Champagne. So really some amazing credence here. Yeah,
definitely.
And a young woman winemaker. So I'll speak about Caroline.
Oh yeah, we need to talk about the woman winemaker because there's only did you say there's only 4 in Champagne?
When I started, there were 3 female chef de cave for Champagne House.
Wow.
Chef de cave basically means big boss of the cellar. And during that time, there were only 3. I think that has changed quite a bit so far already. But in speaking with Caroline, who became the head winemaker at age 35, she was saying that, you know, when she was going through her enology teaching or enology school, there were maybe a class of 20 people. There were maybe 3 to 5 women, and everyone else was men. Just because it's a very traditional area. I think in areas that are kind of conservative and very traditional, things change a bit more slowly, for the better and for the worse. And nowadays, I think that is definitely starting to change. But Caroline is born and raised in Champagne.
Oh, wow.
She actually got her start through Champagne Boulanger. She was a bit of a cellarette at Boulanger, although I don't think Boulanger has any cellarettes. Like, if you're at Boulanger, you're just there. But she worked in the cellar at Boulanger, and she told me this funny story that when she was working in the cellar, one of the principals of the estate came by and said, Caroline, what are you thinking about this vintage this year? And during that time, she was just waxing poetic about how fabulous the Chardonnay was looking and how it was going to be really a great year for Chardonnay. And you know, he kind of like looked at her and was like, okay, and walked away. And afterwards, she was just like face palming and thinking like, why am I talking about Chardonnay in a house of Pinot Noir? But it worked to her advantage because I guess someone took note of that. And when, you know, Ayala was brought into the Boulanger family, they knew that she would be a perfect fit to go work at a house really known for Chardonnay. And to this day, I mean, when she speaks about Chardonnay, she's like talking about her child. But she's just got an absolute, genuine affinity for it. And we really will see that continuously down the line, going into the Rosé. If you want to pour yourself a splash. So this could not be the most perfect weather for such a wine. Guys, I don't know where you're all coming from today, but today in California, it feels like summer. Sorry.
It's definitely summertime in California.
So this is the perfect summer champagne. Here you're going to have a composition of 51% Chardonnay, 40% Pinot Noir, and the remainder Pinot Meunier. Now, it's very unusual for there to be such a high percentage of Chardonnay,
Yeah,
but that really lends this, of course, signature Ayala style and lends such this vibrant, crisp acidity, really balancing the 5 to 6% of still red wine Pinot Noir that is blended in to create the rosé style. Now, Laura, if you want to hold your glass up to the camera, we can all see that the color here, this is not like your Provence pink bubblegum rose color. This is like almost a bright rose gold, because here we're only blending in, again, only 5 to 6% of still red wine, which is quite unusual, as in the Champagne region, on average, most houses are blending 8, 10, up to 20% of still red wine in some houses. But here we're really looking for a platform for Chardonnay to be the leader. Chardonnay to really be at the forefront on the nose, on the palate, and keeping with the family style.
yeah, because that's definitely a high percentage for a rosé to have that high of the Chardonnay.
It certainly is, and what you're going to find is this like incredible freshness. It's almost kind of crunchy. It's so fresh. And of course, staying with that signature Caroline style, you're going to have a lot of purity and again, a very, very clean finish. This is, I think, the most dangerous of all the champagne because it's very easy to enjoy.
It
You
is.
get a lot of like dry rhubarb notes and dry fresh berry notes and a bit of like golden apple. It's just delicious.
It is delicious. I'm loving all the red fruits. I'm getting a lot of raspberry too.
Absolutely. But, you know, again, that high percentage of Chardonnay is really something that is so unique to the rosé style, and it's definitely one to try. This is, I think, very complementary to the Brut Majeur rosé, which you've tried.
Yeah.
Which is also a small percentage of still red wine blended in, but it does go through some oak barrel vinification and sees a much higher percentage of Pinot Noir. So it's very yin-yang. I mean, I like to say that with the Brut Majeur, like toasty, rich style, it's kind of like a burly rosé that I want it like in the winter time with a fireplace and a fur rug and like some lamb chops. and the Ayala rosé is really like, you want to be on a boat. Just get on a boat. Put me on a boat. I want to be on a boat with that rosé. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's definitely perfect. Yeah, the Brut Nature by the sea, waiting on the boat, and this one wants you to step on the boat.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, that's the beauty of great wine is that it can take you places in the glass. You know, especially if I don't know champagne, but I think Gougères might be ready. We'll see.
Oh, okay, exciting.
They're getting there, not quite.
Okay.
A few more minutes. Any questions, Laura?
What would you pair the rosé with, food-wise, besides being on a boat?
Great question. So I think when it comes to champagne, I pair it with everything. And I know that sounds like a boring answer, but bear with me. I think champagne can be really like the denim of wine when it comes to pairing, because it just goes with everything. For example, if you have a table someday of 4 people, and you know, somebody's having meat, someone's having fish, someone's having salad, they're having like a myriad of different things. The one category of wine that can pair beautifully and see through all of those things is champagne. Now this one in particular, because it's so fresh and so vibrant, I would just pair it with something equally so. Again, staying with like sushi. If you have this wine with a piece of toro or a beautiful piece of sea urchin, you're just gonna lose your mind. It's so delicious. Yeah, I recently picked up some red snapper from Dudley Market here in Venice. They're fishing it every morning. And I think that wine with red snapper or kind of like a crispy whole roasted fish would be incredible. If you want to go down the vegetarian route, I think anything, honestly.
Yeah.
But sorry.
No, it's very versatile.
Gougères. What's been your favorite so far?
Oh, that's a good question. I always feel like that's such a hard one. They're all excellent, but I think I'm loving the Brut Nature.
It is quite special, yeah. But I do think that the rosé is so distinctive in its category. You know, I mean, almost dangerously so. You can find yourself enjoying that extra glass that you weren't planning on.
Oh, definitely. I know. I realize I'm like, oh, I just opened my large bottle, but that's not going to be a problem.
I know. I noticed that.
Such an easy sipper. I know.
Like, she's really going for it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Wednesday night. Why not?
Why not? Well, I also mentioned to you on our call the other day that if for some reason, and if this happens, you're forgiven, but you find yourself with too much champagne and it starts to go flat, I have to say, tasting a champagne that is flat is kind of like seeing somebody with their spandex on. Like, you just see what's there. You see what the wine is for what it is. Mm-hmm. And when I taste these wines flat, it tastes like a Chablis. It tastes like a Côte Chardonnay. It tastes like Burgundy. But if you really insist that there must be bubbles and you can't drink it, definitely turn that into some champagne risotto, which I think you're putting on your blog. But
yes, Valerie sent me an amazing recipe for risotto, so I'm going to be putting that up for you guys so we can all make some champagne risotto.
Yeah, and
we got to have champagne all around.
You're not wasting anything, and you feel fancy, and it's very, very good. So
yes,
moving on to the. Do you want to move on to the Blanc de Blanc? This is
and I love Blanc de Blancs. So this is I actually printed one out so you could see it better.
Beautiful.
Right.
So with the new vintage, we've seen a bit of a packaging change. So we've changed the shape of the bottle.
Oh yeah.
So the shape of the bottle for Le Blanc de Blanc is going to have these slightly more narrow, angular shoulders and a bit rounder bottom, which sounds pretty sexy, right? And then it's going to have a round label with a specificity of Le Blanc de Blanc, because this is naturally so a wine that we want to be known for, being that we are a Chardonnay house. Now, Le Blanc de Blanc, you're going to have 100% Chardonnay, and this is going to be coming from Premier Cru and Grand Cru vineyards, in specifically the villages of Cremont, Chilly, Le Meunier, Cuit, and Bertus.
Okay.
So really like top real estate for the best Chardonnay in Champagne. I think our Gougères are done.
Okay.
And there they are. Aren't they cute?
Oh, yay!
Voila. So you see they came from like looking like whatever, like nothing, to this.
I know, it's like the perfect little ball.
Yeah, they're wonderful. So Le Blanc de Blanc, we're going to age this wine for, again, we're systematically doubling the aging requirements. So it'll be aged on the lees for 6 years and given a dosage of 6 grams, which is quite dry.
Yeah.
Here you're going to have the true baby of Caroline. This is her purest expression of what she loves.
Okay.
And as you start to have the wine warm up a little bit more, as you start to evolve through the bottle, you're going to notice such an evolution on this wine, starting with a lot of white floral notes, a lot of golden fruits, golden plums. They call Mirabelle plums in France. They're delicious. Slightly honeyed, but again very dry, and a bit toasty and rich. The the texture on this wine is absolutely incredible. It's just pure lacy velvet in the mouth. It's just delicious. This wine wants lobster roll, like yesterday. For sure, or dumplings or whatever, but definitely lobster.
Mm. That's really good.
It's really an outstanding wine.
Yeah, it has a nice long finish.
For those who are minding what the critics feel about the wine, this is rated in the 90s with Wine Spectator, Wine Advocate, which is such an honor to be recognized as we are indeed a petit maison, to be scored amongst the best champagne is really an honor, and in my humble opinion, very fitting for such a great wine. And I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it's excellent.
Or scallops. That's true, Carrie Ann.
Mm.
that is the
scallops
favorite
and
pairing.
lobster rolls.
It is the favorite pairing of Caroline. Anytime you ask her, you're like, okay, what's the pairing? What's with this wine? She's like, oh, I love with scallops. And I'm like, okay, that does sound really good.
Uh-huh.
But let's get crazy. What else?
Yeah.
I definitely think shellfish, of course, across the line, given the wines have so much purity and pristine fruit, but again, that clean, clean, clean finish. You know, anything that has that sweet, salty kiss from the sea is just really delicious.
Yeah, all of them are just so fresh.
Yes. Fried chicken, of course.
Fried chicken. What about French fries? I'm going to have to do French fries with them.
Oh, of course, yeah. French fries, tater tots, all forms of potato.
So how's the Gauger? Are you going to try one for us?
I am.
Or are they still
I'm
too
going to
warm?
pick this guy. No, they look pretty good. I'm just going to open it up. Accidentally cut my thumb yesterday. Kids, tequila and sharp objects don't mix. Delicious. It's a little buttery, a little salty, but because it has so much Gruyere, you really taste that. So good. I'm having the Brut Nature. Santé.
Cheers. Santé.
Well, if there's any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to start preparing dinner.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions for Valerie? Let's see if anyone has any. But if not, yeah, this was great. There's so many great, I love the range of the champagnes. So I'm going to share it with everyone what we drank today. So you guys can find it if you need help finding it. Wine.com has them, but you can also reach out to us to help you find bottles if you are having any difficulties. But thank you so much. Oh, it looks like there is a question in the question box. 1 second.
But definitely give these wines a try.
So what is the most unique attribute of Ayala compared with the other houses?
Well, this is a great question. I mean, I think it's not one particular element. I think it's the combination of various things. The fact that it's a very historical house, been around for 160 years, it's one of the founding members of the Grand Marque du Champagne. It has this illustrious history of being recognized for the level of its quality. By current day, we have this affiliation with Champagne Ayala, which is one of 3 champagne houses to still be entirely independently owned by descendants of the original family. And that's something really quite unique. I think more than it being a romantic story about legacy and heritage, this is something that's really implemented into every level of detail and quality in the house. When you're not looking to make a short-term return on your investment to feed back to your investors, and you're guarding it for the future generation, you're guarding it for your children or your brother and sister's children, you're going to handle the philosophy very, very differently. And I think being under this type of ownership naturally transfers that ethos and modus operandi to the maison. Being such that we have a young, very brave and fantastic woman winemaker who's leading a very small team of young, inspired individuals to carry all of this history on their shoulders to bring Ayala back to its glory in present day. I think it's just very, very compelling. that and the wines are really good. Most
Yes, they are. They're excellent.
more than it being this story and all these points, you know, the wine's got to be delicious. And I think within the range of champagne, I do drink a lot of champagne. I love it. But I sometimes find that the finish in a lot of these champagnes can come off in a way that leaves me feeling like I could just stop. Not with Ayala. With Ayala, you know, because there is just so much purity, and I think care and quality in these wines is something that you really can feel and taste. And for the price points, it's extremely compelling in this category. It really is. And Brut Majeur, I think you can find for about $40 or so in the category of a $40 champagne for a petit maison that has all of these accreditations of being a Grand Marque, of being the official champagne of the royal family of the UK and Spain during the 20s, having a connection to Champagne Bollinger. It's a story worth reading, really. It's a bottle worth opening, and it's something worth experiencing for sure. It's definitely my favorite. Like, it's my house go-to in that price point. You know, in France, you know, when you open up the fridge, you have butter, milk, cheese, and a bottle of champagne. Those are the staples, at least. And then you build upon that, right?
You gotta have those main things.
Exactly. Like, you're always going to find a bottle of champagne in a French fridge. They're just ready for that moment, you know. And yes, champagne can be very celebratory, but it is a wine. And I do appreciate how they're just always stocked with that. And if you're going to always be stocked with at least one bottle of champagne in your fridge, I think it should at least be the Brut Majeur, because for the price point, the level of quality, the story behind, and how delicious it is, what a people pleaser it is, it's a winner.
It is a winner. And I feel like it's been opening up throughout, you know, as we've been sitting here, it keeps developing. So it's amazing.
For sure. I'm sure the temperature is going much higher now that it's like 80-something degrees.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, wait, it looks like there's one more.
Okay.
Keep popping up.
Hit me.
Oh, no. Okay. I think that's it. So thank you so much, Valerie. This is amazing.
My pleasure.
Someone could ask for the recipe for the Rosé, so I'll share the one you made with everyone. So thank you again for coming on and presenting this to us. It was great learning about Champagne Ayala and talking to you today. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of
course.
course.
For the wines.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.